Aiden didn't remember the exact moment the roads stopped being normal. At first, everything felt ordinary enough. Just another long stretch of highway cutting through northern Vermont, his rental car humming steadily, the world outside tinted in late afternoon gold. He had left Boston 2 days after his mother's funeral. Not because he was ready, but because staying felt worse. Silence at home had started to feel like it had weight, like it was pressing against his chest even when he wasn't thinking about her. Driving was supposed to help. It didn't. The radio had stopped working an hour ago. Not static, not fading, just silence, like the idea of sound had been removed entirely. Even the engine felt different now, softer, like it was trying not to disturb something. Aiden checked the GPS. No signal. He frowned. That shouldn't be possible. He was still on a major route, or at least he had been. He looked out the windshield. The trees had changed. Not in a natural way. It wasn't seasonal. It wasn't distance. It was like someone had replaced the forest with a slightly wrong version of itself. The trunks were too straight, the branches too still. Even the leaves looked dimmer, as if color itself had been drained halfway. Aiden slowed the car. The road ahead stretched longer than it should have. Straight, perfect, too perfect. There were no signs, no markings, no guardrails. Just asphalt disappearing into a narrowing tunnel of trees. He tapped the GPS again. Still nothing. Then, for a brief second, the screen flickered. A new route appeared. Not a reroute suggestion, not a warning, just a single line leading forward, labeled Unknown Road. Aiden felt a small chill crawl up his spine. The system shouldn't even be active without signal. He tried to turn around, but when he looked into the rearview mirror, the road behind him was no longer familiar. It wasn't just empty, it was different. The shape of the forest had shifted. The curve of the road had bent slightly, like reality had been rotated while he wasn't looking. Aiden's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Okay, he muttered under his breath. That's not normal. He pressed the accelerator anyway. Forward was better than confused backward. Minutes passed, or maybe longer. Time was starting to feel unreliable. The sky should have been dimming, but it stayed locked in a strange, unmoving afternoon light. No sun movement, no shifting shadows, just stillness. Then the trees opened. The road ended. Aiden stepped on the brakes so hard, the car jolted forward. Ahead of him was a clearing, and in the center of it, a house. Not a farmhouse, not a cabin, a structure too large, too tall, too old to belong in this part of the world. It stood alone, surrounded by dead grass that spread in a perfect circle, like something had burned reality away and left only this space untouched. Aiden stared at it for a long time. His first thought was simple. There should not be a house here. His second thought was worse. There had never been a road here in the first place. He turned off the engine. Silence rushed in immediately, heavier than before. He looked down at his phone again. No signal. Battery, 83%. He frowned. He hadn't been charging it. Then he noticed something else. The time on the phone had stopped. 17:12. Frozen. Aiden exhaled slowly. This is just GPS glitching. Terrain mismatch. Something like that. But even as he said it, he knew it didn't feel like that. He stepped out of the car. The air outside was colder than it should have been. Not winter cold, something sharper. Like the temperature was being remembered incorrectly by the world. The grass under his shoes didn't move. No rustle, no sound, no resistance. It felt like stepping on something that was pretending to be grass. Aiden looked back at his car. It was parked slightly crooked, headlights reflecting faintly off the ground. Then he noticed something that made him pause. The driver's seat headrest was turned slightly to the side, as if someone had been sitting there, watching him. Aiden swallowed. Nope, no, no, no. He forced himself to look back at the house. Now that he was closer, he could see more detail. The windows were uneven. Some were too narrow, stretched vertically like they had been pulled. Others were too wide, like eyes that refused to match each other. The wood was dark, almost black, preserved in a way that felt unnatural. And the front door, it was already open, just slightly, like it had been waiting for him to notice it. Aiden hesitated. A normal person would turn back. A rational person would leave. But behind him was the road that no longer felt like it belonged to the world either. He took a step forward. The grass still made no sound. Another step. Nothing. Each movement felt like it was being recorded by something unseen, something patient. When he reached the porch, he noticed scratches carved into the wood. At first they looked random, but then his eyes adjusted. They were names. Hundreds of them. Some deep and old. Some shallow, fresh. Some repeated so many times the wood had started to split. Aiden traced one with his eyes, then stopped, because he saw something familiar. Aiden. Carved recently. The wood around it still looked raw. His breath caught. "That's not possible," he whispered. Behind him, the wind shifted slightly, but only around the house. Not the trees, not the grass, just the house. The front door creaked. Aiden hadn't touched it. It opened another inch. Inside was darkness, but not empty darkness. It felt layered, like something had depth inside it that didn't belong to physical space. Then he heard it, a sound from within, a chair dragging slowly across wood. A deliberate movement, like someone inside had just noticed him. Aiden stepped back instinctively. His heel hit the grass behind him. The sound finally came. Not loud, but real. A soft crunch. And immediately, the dragging inside stopped. Silence fell. Then a voice came from within the house. Not loud, not echoing, just close enough to be understood clearly. "Aiden, you're late." Aiden froze. His name, said like it had been expected, like it was normal. He stepped back again, faster now. The door creaked wider on its own. The darkness inside shifted. Something moved closer, not fully visible, just a shape. Tall, wrong, too still to be human, too patient to be anything else. Aiden turned toward his car and stopped, because the car was no longer facing away from the house. It was facing it, perfectly aligned, as if it had turned while he wasn't looking. The driver's seat was empty, but the seatbelt was buckled. Aiden felt his chest tighten. No way. From inside the car, the radio suddenly clicked on. No sound, just a faint breathing noise, slow, controlled. Aiden backed toward the house without meaning to. The porch creaked under him. The moment his foot crossed the threshold, everything changed. Air inside was warmer. Too warm. Like stepping into something alive. The door closed behind him without touching. Click. The sound echoed through the house like a lock sealing itself. Aiden spun around. The door was gone. Just a wall now. Perfect wood. No handle. No exit. A voice whispered again from somewhere deeper inside. "You finally came in." Aiden's throat felt dry. "Who's there?" No answer. Instead, footsteps began upstairs. Slow, measured, walking in a circle. Aiden looked up at the ceiling. The footsteps stopped, then resumed. Closer now. Aiden took a step backward. The floor creaked, but it wasn't his step. It came from above, imitating him. The house was learning. And then from the darkness of the hallway ahead, something spoke again. Not from one place, from everywhere at once. "We remember every version of you that got this far." Aiden stood frozen as the hallway stretched slightly longer, like the house had just taken a breath and decided it was time to begin. Aiden remained motionless in the hallway. The words still echoed around him. The house had spoken as though it knew him. Not his name, not his face. Something deeper, something older. The air felt thick, making every breath difficult. The darkness ahead seemed alive, shifting in slow waves through the corridor. Then the footsteps above stopped. Silence settled over everything. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then a door somewhere deep inside the house slammed shut. The sound exploded through the building. Aiden jumped. Another door slammed, then another, and another. The noise raced through the house like a chain reaction. Room after room, floor after floor, hundreds of doors, until suddenly everything stopped again. Complete silence. Aiden realized his hands were shaking. He forced himself to move. Standing still felt worse. The hallway stretched before him, lined with faded portraits. He had not noticed them before. The paintings were old, very old. Each showed a person standing beside the same house. Men, women, children. Different centuries, different clothes, different eras. But every face shared the same expression. Fear. Pure, hopeless fear. Aiden walked closer. The first portrait showed a woman in clothing from the late 19th century. Her eyes looked directly at him. The paint appeared wet, fresh, as though someone had finished it moments ago. He moved to the next painting. A young man, terrified. The same house behind him. The same expression. The same eyes. Aiden froze. The eyes were moving, slowly, following him. He stepped backward. The eyes followed. Every portrait in the hallway turned toward him simultaneously. Aiden ran. The corridor seemed endless. His footsteps echoed through the darkness. The portraits blurred past him. Then the hallway abruptly ended. A large wooden door stood before him. Unlike everything else in the house, this door looked new. Perfect. Untouched. At its center was a brass plaque. One word was engraved into the metal. Memories. Aiden stared at it. Something inside him screamed not to open that door. Yet another part of him felt drawn toward it, like the house wanted him there, like it had been guiding him from the moment he arrived. Slowly, he placed his hand on the knob. The metal felt warm, almost human. The door opened inward. Inside was a library. Rows upon rows of shelves stretched farther than the room should have allowed. Books covered every wall. Thousands, maybe millions. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above. The room smelled like dust and rain. Aiden stepped inside. The moment he crossed the threshold, the door behind him closed. Not violently, gently, like a trap that knew escape was impossible. He approached the nearest shelf. Every book looked identical. Black covers, no titles, no markings, nothing. He pulled one free. The cover opened automatically. Inside were photographs, his photographs. Aiden nearly dropped the book. The first image showed him on his first day of kindergarten. The second showed him riding a bicycle at age 10. The third showed him crying alone in a hospital waiting room after his father died. Aiden stared. Nobody should have these. Nobody. His hands trembled as he turned another page. More photographs. Private moments. Moments he had never shared. Moments nobody had witnessed. Every memory of his life. Recorded, stored, cataloged. He closed the book immediately. Then noticed something terrifying. The spine now had a title. Aiden. His name. The shelf around him contained thousands of other books. Thousands of names. Thousands of lives. Aiden backed away slowly. Something moved between the shelves. A shadow. Tall. Thin. Watching. He turned sharply. Nothing there. But he could feel it. The presence remained. Observing. Waiting. A sudden sound came from deeper within the library. Pages turning. Hundreds of pages. Thousands. Aiden followed the noise. The shelves seemed to shift around him as he walked. The farther he went, the darker the room became. Eventually he reached an open area. A large table stood in the center. Upon it rested a single book. Unlike the others, this one was enormous, bound in dark leather. The cover bore no name, only a symbol, a circle crossed by dozens of jagged lines. The same symbol he had seen scratched into the porch outside. The pages were already open. Aiden looked down. His blood turned cold. The book was writing itself. Words appeared one letter at a time across the page, fresh black ink spreading slowly. Aiden read the sentence forming before him. Aiden Walker entered the house at 1712. The next line appeared. He discovered the memory room. The next, he has not yet understood why he was invited. Aiden stepped back. The writing continued. He is beginning to remember. The ink stopped. Aiden stared. Remember what? The room suddenly grew colder. The pages began turning rapidly. Faster, faster, faster. Thousands of pages flipping on their own. Then they stopped. One page remained open. At the top was a date, October 14th, 1987. Beneath it was a photograph. Aiden frowned. The image showed a road, the same road outside, the same forest, the same clearing, the same house. But the date was decades before he was born. Aiden looked closer. A figure stood near the porch. The photograph was grainy, hard to see, yet the face was unmistakable. It was him. Aiden felt the room tilt. His stomach twisted violently. No, impossible. The figure in the photograph was older, maybe 40, yet undeniably him. The page turned by itself. Another photograph appeared. Another date. Again the same house. Again the same road. Again Aiden stood outside. Older. Different clothing. Different expression. The next page. Another Aiden. The next. Another. Page after page. Decade after decade. Always the same face. Always the same road. Always the same house. The library went dark. Every light vanished simultaneously. For several seconds, he could see nothing. Then something breathed behind him. Slow, wet, heavy. Aiden turned. Two pale eyes floated in the darkness, far above his head, at least 8 feet high, maybe taller. The eyes blinked, once, then vanished. The shelves began moving. Books slid from their places. Hundreds, thousands, crashing onto the floor. The library shook. Aiden ran. The darkness chased him. Books exploded from shelves behind him. The breathing followed. Closer, closer, closer. Aiden could hear footsteps now. Massive footsteps. The floor trembling beneath each one. The creature was coming. He sprinted between rows of shelves. The library seemed endless. Every direction looked identical. No exit, no doorway, only darkness. Then suddenly he saw light ahead, a faint glow. Aiden raced toward it. The opening led into another room. He threw himself through. The doorway slammed shut behind him. Silence, instant silence. Aiden collapsed against the wall, gasping. The room was small, circular, its walls covered entirely in clocks. Thousands of clocks. Grandfather clocks, pocket watches, digital clocks, ancient clocks, modern clocks. Every one showed the same time, 1712, the exact moment he arrived. Tick, a single clock, moved. Then another. Tick, tick, tick. Soon every clock in the room began moving. Not forward, backward. Aiden watched in horror as the hands reversed. Minutes rewinding, hours rewinding, days, years. The room filled with a deafening mechanical roar. The clock spun faster and faster, then stopped. Every clock pointed to midnight. The lights went out. A voice spoke from the darkness. It was not the house. It was something else, something older. We have been waiting a very long time. Aiden backed away. Who are you? The darkness answered immediately. "We are what remains." Cold spread across the room. Aiden could see his breath. The voice continued. "The house is only the door. We are the reason it exists." Then faces began appearing in the darkness. Hundreds, thousands, floating without bodies, all staring at him. Every face belonged to someone from the portraits. Every victim, every missing person, every trapped soul. Aiden realized the truth. The house wasn't haunted. The house was a prison, and whatever was imprisoned inside had been gathering people for generations. The faces opened their mouths simultaneously. Aiden heard thousands of voices speaking as one. Leave before it remembers completely. The lights exploded. Glass shattered. Every clock stopped. The faces vanished. Aiden stood alone once more. But now a new door had appeared. A narrow wooden door at the far end of the room. A date. Tomorrow's date. Aiden stared. Fear crawled through his chest. The date should not exist here. Yet it did. Beneath it was another message. "This is where you die." The words looked freshly carved, as though someone had written them moments ago. Aiden stepped closer. The wood suddenly split open, not like a door opening, like flesh tearing. A long crack formed down the center. Darkness leaked out. Then a hand emerged, human, pale, covered in blood. The hand gripped the frame tightly. Another hand appeared. Then a face slowly pushed through the opening. Aiden stumbled backward. The figure crawling out looked exactly like him. Same eyes, same face, same height, same everything, except for one detail. Its mouth was sewn shut with black thread. The double stared at him, then slowly raised a finger, pointing behind Aiden. Aiden turned. The wall behind him was gone. In its place stood a long corridor. At the far end was the tall shadow from the library, the thing with the pale eyes. This time he could see more of it. Its body seemed made of darkness itself. Limbs too long, neck twisted at impossible angles. Its head touched the ceiling, and it was smiling. A smile stretching far wider than any human mouth. The creature took one step forward. The floor cracked. Another step. The walls trembled. Another. The temperature dropped violently. The sewn-mouthed double grabbed Aiden's arm. Its grip was desperate, urgent. It pointed toward a narrow staircase hidden beside the corridor. The creature continued approaching. Aiden didn't hesitate. He ran for the staircase. Behind him, the monster released a sound unlike anything he had ever heard. Not a scream, not a roar, something far worse. A sound that felt like reality itself tearing apart. Aiden raced upward. The stairs twisted endlessly. Below him, the creature climbed after him. Slow, patient, certain. The house groaned around them. Doors slammed. Walls shifted. The entire structure seemed alive with panic, as if even the house feared the thing pursuing him. Aiden climbed faster. The darkness below kept rising. Closer, closer, closer. Then suddenly he saw a door at the top. Moonlight leaked through the cracks, the first natural light he had seen since arriving. Aiden threw himself toward it. The handle turned, the door opened, and what he saw beyond it made his blood run cold. Because waiting on the other side was not freedom, not escape, not the outside world. It was an entire town. A silent town, abandoned, rotting, frozen beneath a dead sky. And every building in that impossible town bore the same address as the house. Aiden stood frozen in the doorway. The town stretched beneath a gray sky that never moved. For a moment, he forgot the creature chasing him, forgot the house, forgot everything, because what he was seeing made no sense. The town was enormous. Rows of buildings extended in every direction. Stores, churches, schools, houses, a hospital, A police station, a gas station, everything a normal town should have. Yet there were no people, no animals, no wind, no sound, nothing moved. It looked less like an abandoned town and more like a memory of one. Something built by a mind that remembered details, but not life. Aiden stepped outside. The door behind him slammed shut immediately. He turned. The house was gone. Only a brick building stood behind him. A hotel. Its sign read, "Welcome Home." Aiden stared at the sign, then at the street beyond. A cold realization settled into his chest. The town wasn't separate from the house. The town was part of it, a much larger part. The house had only been the entrance. A distant church bell suddenly rang, one time. The sound echoed across the silent streets. Then everything became still again. Aiden began walking. The road beneath his feet looked old and cracked. Streetlights lined the sidewalks. Every bulb was broken, every window dark. The deeper he moved into town, the more wrong everything felt. Store signs displayed familiar words, but not quite correctly. A pharmacy was labeled "Memory Store." A restaurant was labeled "Feeding Room." A school carried a sign that simply read, "Beginning." As if whatever created this place understood human civilization only partially. Like an imitation, like a dream. Aiden reached a newspaper stand. Dozens of newspapers sat untouched. He picked one up. The date made his stomach tighten. October 14th, 1987. The same date from the photograph in the library. The headline was worse. "Local man returns again." Aiden unfolded the paper. A photograph occupied the center. His photograph. Not someone who looked like him. Him, standing outside the house. The article beneath was short. "The traveler has returned. The road remembered. The town awakens. Preparation continues." Aiden dropped the newspaper. Every copy around him carried the same headline, the same photograph, the same words. A voice suddenly spoke nearby. Not loud, not threatening, almost curious. "You look surprised." Aiden spun around. A boy stood across the street, maybe 10 years old, thin, pale, wearing clothing from another era. He smiled softly. The smile didn't reach his eyes, because his eyes contained something terrible. Age. Not physical age, ancient age. The kind of exhaustion that comes from existing far too long. Aiden stared. "You're real." The boy tilted his head. "More real than most things here." Aiden took a cautious step closer. "Who are you?" The boy looked toward the sky. "I don't remember anymore. Nobody remembers after enough time passes." Aiden frowned. "What is this place?" Laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. The question echoed strangely through the empty town. Nobody ever asks that first. Usually they ask how to escape. "Can I?" The boy's smile disappeared. "No." The answer came too quickly, too honestly. Aiden's chest tightened. The boy continued. "Not after the road chooses you. Not after the town sees your face. Not after it remembers your name." The church bell rang again, twice this time. The boy immediately looked frightened. His eyes widened. "He's awake." "Who?" The boy backed away. "The mayor." Then he turned and ran. Aiden hurried after him. "Wait!" But the child moved unnaturally fast. Within seconds he vanished between buildings. Gone. Aiden stopped. The silence returned. Then something moved inside a nearby house. A curtain shifted. Aiden froze. Another curtain moved. Then another. Then another. Across the entire street. Every house. Every window. Something was watching. Dozens. Hundreds. Aiden couldn't see faces. Only shadows standing behind glass. Motionless. Observing. The church bell rang a third time. Immediately every curtain dropped. The windows became dark again. Aiden felt a chill. Whatever lived here feared the bell. Or feared whoever controlled it. He continued walking. Eventually he reached the center of town. A massive square opened before him. At its center stood a statue. The figure depicted by the statue wore a long coat. Its face had been deliberately removed, chiseled away, destroyed. Yet the remaining posture radiated authority, power, control. Beneath the statue sat a plaque. Aiden brushed away dust. The inscription read, "He who remembers all things, the mayor." Aiden stepped back. The church bell rang again, this time 4 times. The sound seemed closer. Aiden looked toward the church. It stood at the far end of the square, larger than every other building. Its black steeple pierced the dead sky. Something about it immediately felt wrong. The structure leaned slightly, not physically, visually, like reality bent around it. The front doors slowly opened. No one touched them. Darkness waited inside. Aiden stared, then heard footsteps behind him. He turned quickly. The square was empty. Another footstep, closer. Aiden spun again. Nothing. The sound continued, walking around him, circling, invisible. Aiden's pulse accelerated. The footsteps stopped directly behind him. A breath touched his neck. Cold, rotten. Aiden whirled around. Nothing. But a new message had appeared on the statue, written in fresh black ink. "We see you." Aiden backed away immediately. More writing appeared beneath it. Letter by letter, slowly, like an invisible hand was carving each word. "He is coming." The church doors opened wider, outward. Aiden didn't know why. He didn't know whether it was safe. But every instinct told him the church was better than staying in the square. He ran. The massive doors waited open. The moment he crossed the threshold, they slammed shut behind him. The sound shook the building. Silence followed. The church interior stretched impossibly far. Rows of pews vanished into darkness. Hundreds of candles burned along the walls. Every flame was blue. Aiden moved cautiously forward. His footsteps echoed. Then another set of footsteps echoed too. Not his, someone else's, walking away. Aiden followed. The footsteps continued, leading him deeper into the church, past endless rows of pews, past ancient stained glass windows. Each window depicted the same scene: a road emerging from darkness, a traveler walking it, a waiting town. The final window showed something different: a giant figure standing above the town, watching, smiling. The image made Aiden uncomfortable, because the face looked familiar. Very familiar. He couldn't understand why. The footsteps stopped. Aiden reached the altar. A single person stood there. She faced away from him, motionless. Aiden approached slowly. "Excuse me," the woman interrupted immediately. "You're later than the others." Her voice sounded ancient. Not old, ancient. Like dry paper tearing. Aiden stopped. "Who are you?" The woman turned. His blood ran cold, because her face wasn't human. It was made of photographs. Thousands of photographs layered together. Faces, memories, moments, all fused into one shifting surface. She smiled. Images rearranged themselves. "You don't recognize me." Aiden stepped backward. "Should I?" The woman nodded. "You created me." Silence filled the church. Aiden stared. "What?" She pointed toward the stained glass windows. "The road, the town, the house, the mayor, all because of you." Aiden shook his head. "No, that's impossible." The woman sighed. "That's what every version says." "Every version?" The woman looked directly into his eyes. "How much do you remember?" Aiden felt confused. "Remember what?" A woman closed her eyes. Then suddenly the church changed. Reality blurred. The walls vanished. The floor disappeared. Darkness consumed everything. Images appeared around them, floating, moving, memories. Aiden watched scenes from his life, his childhood, his parents, his school years, his first apartment, his mother's funeral. Then the memories continued. into moments he had never lived. Different lives, different centuries, different names, different worlds, yet every memory belonged to the same soul, his soul. Aiden stumbled backward. No, the woman watched quietly. You have walked the road many times. The images accelerated. Hundreds, thousands, different versions of Aiden. Different lives, different deaths, different eras, always ending the same way. The road, the house, the town, the mayor. Again, 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 again. Aiden grabbed his head. Stop. The images vanished instantly. The church returned. Aiden struggled to breathe. The woman looked sad. Now you understand why he wants you. Who? The mayor. The church trembled. The candles flickered violently. For the first time, fear appeared on the woman's face. He's here. The front doors exploded inward. The sound shook the entire building. Aiden turned. A figure stood at the entrance. Tall, thin, wearing a black coat, its face hidden beneath darkness. Every candle in the church extinguished simultaneously. The mayor had arrived. Silence filled the building. The mayor took one step forward. The floor cracked. Another. The stained glass windows shattered. Another. The church groaned. Aiden couldn't move. Something about the figure felt overwhelming, ancient, impossible. The mayor stopped, then spoke. His voice sounded like many voices speaking together. Aiden. The name echoed endlessly. Aiden felt reality distort around him. The mayor raised one hand. You remember now. Aiden shook his head. I don't know you. The mayor laughed softly. A terrible sound. You made me. The same words the woman had spoken. Aiden felt panic rising. I don't understand. The mayor tilted his head. Then, let me show you. Suddenly, Aiden saw another memory. Not through his eyes. From above. A distant time. A distant place. A man stood alone in darkness. A man who looked exactly like Aiden. Around him stretched an endless void. No stars, no world, nothing. Only loneliness. Centuries of loneliness. Millennia. The man finally spoke. I don't want to be alone anymore. Reality answered. The void split open. A road appeared. Then a house. Then a town. Then a figure. The first mayor. Born from loneliness itself. The vision ended. Aiden staggered. The mayor smiled. You created us, and every time you return, you forget. The church began collapsing, walls cracking, ceilings splitting. The woman screamed. Run. The mayor turned toward her. One glance, that was all. The woman instantly dissolved into thousands of photographs. They scattered through the air like leaves. Gone. Aiden ran. The church exploded behind him. He burst through a side door into the street. The town was no longer empty. People stood everywhere now. Hundreds, thousands. Silent figures lining every road, every sidewalk, every rooftop, all staring at him. Their faces carried the same expression. Fear. The mayor emerged from the church ruins. The crowd immediately bowed. Every person, every soul, every trapped victim. Aiden backed away. The mayor pointed toward him. Find him. The crowd lifted their heads. Then every person began moving, slowly, toward Aiden. Thousands of silent figures, advancing together. Aiden turned and ran. Behind him the entire town followed, and somewhere above the dead sky, something enormous opened its eyes. Aiden ran. The sound behind him was worse than screaming, because there was no sound at all. Thousands of people were chasing him through the streets of the impossible town. Yet they made no noise, no footsteps, no breathing, no voices, only silence. Aiden glanced over his shoulder. The crowd filled the road from side to side. Men, women, children, elderly people. Some wore clothing from the 1800s, others looked modern. Some appeared decades old, others looked as though they had arrived only yesterday. All moving toward him, all staring, all obeying the mayor. Aiden sprinted around a corner and nearly crashed into a wall, a dead end. His heart dropped. The alley was narrow, boxed in by brick buildings on both sides. No exit, no escape. The silent crowd was already entering the alley behind him. Aiden backed against the wall. Panic tightened his chest. This couldn't be how it ended. Not here, not trapped like an animal. The crowd kept approaching. Then something unexpected happened. A hand shot out from a nearby wall. Aiden nearly screamed. The hand grabbed his jacket and pulled him sideways. The brick wall opened like a curtain. Aiden stumbled through. The wall immediately sealed behind him. Silence. Darkness. Aiden collapsed onto the floor. A lantern flickered nearby. A familiar voice spoke. "You run exactly like the others." Aiden looked up. The boy from earlier sat on a wooden crate. The strange child who claimed not to remember his own name. "You saved me." The boy shrugged. "For now." Aiden looked around. The room resembled an underground shelter. Old furniture, dusty shelves, ancient maps, dozens of candles. The ceiling was low, the walls made of stone. For the first time since entering the road, Aiden felt slightly safer. Only slightly. "Who are you?" Aiden asked. The boy remained silent for a moment. Then he sighed. "I used to have a name." "What happened to it?" The boy's expression darkened. "The town took it." Aiden frowned. "What does that mean?" The boy stood and walked toward a wall covered with photographs. Thousands of photographs. Every one showed different people, different centuries, different eras. But each photograph had something in common. The faces were blurred, completely erased. The boy touched one gently. "When someone stays here long enough, the town begins eating them." Aiden stared. Eating them? Not their bodies. The boy looked at him. Their identity. A cold feeling settled in Aiden's stomach. The boy continued. "It starts with memories, then names, then faces. Eventually you forget who you were." Aiden remembered the child saying he no longer knew his own name. Suddenly it wasn't strange anymore. It was terrifying. "How long have you been here?" Aiden asked. The boy laughed softly. "I don't know." That answer felt worse than any number. The lantern flickered. Shadows danced across the walls. Heavily. Everything he had learned in the church replayed inside his mind. The road, the house, the town, the mayor, the endless cycle, the countless versions of himself. None of it felt real. Yet all of it was happening. The boy suddenly looked toward the ceiling. His face grew pale. "What is it?" Aiden asked. The boy didn't answer immediately. Then he whispered, "He's searching." Aiden's blood ran cold. The mayor. The candles dimmed. The underground room trembled slightly. Dust fell from above. Aiden looked upward. Something moved across the ceiling. A shadow. Huge. Far larger than any human. It passed slowly overhead. The boy immediately extinguished the lantern. Darkness swallowed the room. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them moved. Several seconds passed. Then a voice echoed faintly through the stone. "Aiden." The sound seemed to come from everywhere. Aiden closed his eyes. The mayor's voice. Calm, patient, ancient. The voice continued. "You cannot hide forever." Silence followed. The shadow above drifted away. Only then did the boy relight the lantern. "We need to leave." Aiden nodded immediately. "Where?" The boy hesitated, then pointed toward an old map hanging on the wall. Aiden approached. The map depicted the town, but something caught his attention immediately. The streets formed a pattern, a symbol, the same strange symbol carved throughout the house. The realization made him uncomfortable. The town wasn't built randomly. It was designed, constructed for a purpose. The boy pointed toward the center, a location labeled the Memory Well. "What is that?" Aiden asked. The boy swallowed. "The oldest place in the town." Aiden studied the map. "Why do we need to go there?" The boy looked directly into his eyes. "Because that's where the road began." Silence filled the room. The road began there, which meant answers might exist there too. Perhaps even a way out. Aiden nodded. "Then let's go." The journey took longer than expected. The underground tunnels stretched beneath the entire town. Some passages looked centuries old. Others appeared newer, as if people had continued expanding them over time. Along the walls, Aiden noticed carvings, thousands of names, the same thing he had seen in the house. Most were scratched out, erased, forgotten. The deeper they traveled, the colder the air became. Eventually, they reached a rusted metal ladder. The boy climbed first. Aiden followed. A hatch opened above them. Moonlight poured in. They emerged inside an abandoned cemetery. Rows of crooked gravestones surrounded them. The dead sky hung overhead. Everything felt still. Wrong. Aiden looked closer at the nearest gravestone. The inscription made him freeze. Aiden Walker. He stepped backward, then noticed another gravestone. Aiden Walker. Another. Aiden Walker. Another. Aiden Walker. Another. And another. The entire cemetery was filled with his name. Hundreds of graves. Hundreds of deaths. Hundreds of versions. The boy stood quietly. "You've been here many times." Aiden stared at the endless rows. The sight felt impossible. Every grave carried a different date, different ages, different endings. One stone read, "He remembered too late." Another, "He trusted the mayor." Another, "He opened the wrong door." Aiden felt sick. Every path had failed. Every version had lost. The boy suddenly pointed ahead. There, beyond the cemetery, stood a forest. Black trees twisted beneath the gray sky. At the center of the forest, something towered above everything else. A structure, ancient, massive, circular, the Memory Well. The closer they approached, the quieter the world became. Even the distant sounds of the town disappeared. Eventually, they reached the clearing. Aiden stopped. The Memory Well was enormous, at least 50 feet wide. Its stone walls looked older than anything else he had seen. Older than the house, older than the town, perhaps older than the road itself. Ancient symbols covered every surface. The air around it felt heavy, almost sacred, or cursed. The boy approached the edge carefully. "Look." Aiden stepped forward, then peered inside. His heart nearly stopped. The well wasn't filled with water. It contained memories, millions of them. Images floated beneath the surface. Faces, lives, entire histories, moving endlessly through the darkness below. Aiden watched scenes appear and vanish. Births, deaths, wars, celebrations, loneliness, love, fear. Human lives flowing together like an ocean. Then he saw himself, not once, thousands of times. Different versions, different worlds, different centuries, all falling into the same well. Aiden stepped back. "What is this place?" The boy's voice trembled. "The town feeds on memory." Aiden looked again. The memories below were moving faster now, as if responding to his presence. Then one memory rose toward the surface, a single image, clearer than the others. Aiden recognized it immediately. His mother's funeral, the most painful day of his recent life. The memory floated before him, perfectly preserved. Aiden stared. Then another memory emerged, his childhood. Then another, his father. Another, his first heartbreak. Another, his first success. The well was showing him everything. A voice suddenly spoke behind them. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Aiden turned instantly. The mayor stood at the edge of the clearing, alone, silent, watching. The boy backed away in terror. The mayor smiled. I've missed this part. Aiden felt fear surge through him. The mayor approached slowly. No crowd? Aiden asked. No hunters? The mayor laughed softly. The answer felt honest. The mayor reached the well, then looked down into it. For a moment, genuine sadness crossed his face. Aiden noticed, and for the first time, he wondered if the mayor truly understood what he was doing. The mayor spoke quietly. You still don't understand. Aiden clenched his fists, then explained. The mayor looked toward the endless memories below. When you created us, you gave us purpose. Aiden remained silent. The mayor continued. The road exists because you feared being forgotten. The house exists because you feared being alone. The town exists because you wanted people to remain forever. Aiden remembered the vision inside the church. The lonely figure, the void, the creation. The mayor pointed toward the well. And this exists because memories die. The well churned violently. The images below accelerated. The mayor's voice softened. You created a place where nothing would ever be lost. Aiden stared. Something about those words felt true. Dangerously true. The mayor looked at him. But every gift demands a price. The ground suddenly trembled. The well began glowing. The memories inside brightened. The mayor's expression changed. For the first time, he looked worried. The boy stepped backward. What is happening? Aiden asked. The mayor stared into the well, then whispered. Something woke up. The glow intensified. The well shook violently. Cracks spread across the ancient stone. The memories below started screaming. Thousands of voices, millions, a deafening chorus rising from the depths. The mayor backed away. Aiden felt the ground shaking beneath his feet. Then a massive crack split the well from top to bottom. The ancient stone exploded outward. A blinding white light erupted into the dead sky. Something was emerging. Something older than the road. Older than the house. Older than the mayor. The mayor stared upward in horror. And Aiden realized something terrifying. Whatever was coming, even the mayor was afraid of it. The white light erupted from the shattered memory well like a second sun. Aiden threw an arm across his eyes. The ground shook violently. Ancient stones exploded outward. Trees snapped apart. The sky above the town cracked like glass. For the first time since arriving, Aiden heard something louder than silence. Screaming. Not human screaming. The screams of memories. Millions of them. Every life the road had ever stolen. Every soul trapped inside the town. Every forgotten name. The sound was unbearable. Aiden fell to one knee. Nearby, the boy covered his ears and screamed. The mayor did not move. He stood staring into the light. Frozen. Terrified. Aiden had never imagined such a thing was possible. The mayor feared nothing. Yet now fear radiated from him like heat. Something began rising from the well. At first Aiden thought it was a person. Then he realized how wrong he was. The thing emerging had no fixed shape. It constantly changed. Faces appeared across its surface. Thousands of faces. Millions. Children, adults, elderly people. Entire generations flowing through its body like water. Eyes opened and closed everywhere. Hands emerged and disappeared. Voices whispered from within it. An impossible living storm made entirely of memories. The mayor stepped backward. One step, then another. The entity continued rising. The sky darkened around it. The town trembled. Buildings cracked. Windows shattered. The church steeple collapsed in the distance. Aiden stared. What is it? The boy answered with a trembling voice. The first memory. The words barely escaped his mouth. The mayor finally spoke. No. For the first time, his voice sounded uncertain. The entity turned. Millions of eyes focused upon him. Then, every face inside it spoke together. The sound shook reality. You forgot who you were. The mayor recoiled. Aiden frowned. The creature wasn't speaking to him. It was speaking to the mayor. The mayor clenched his fists. I remember. The entity drifted closer. No. The single word echoed across the entire town. You remember the lie. Silence followed. The mayor's face twisted. Pain crossed his features. Aiden suddenly realized something. The mayor wasn't born evil. He had once been something else. Someone else. The entity raised countless hands. Images exploded into the air around them. Memories. Ancient memories. Aiden watched in shock. He saw the lonely figure from the vision. The figure standing in the endless void. The creator. The first version of Aiden. But now the memory continued beyond what he had seen before. The lonely man created the road, created the house, created the town, created the mayor. Then he gave the mayor a single command: protect every memory, protect every soul, protect every name. The vision shifted. Centuries passed. The town grew. More travelers arrived. More memories accumulated. The burden increased. The mayor remained alone, watching, guarding, waiting, year after year, century after century. Eventually something changed. The mayor began fearing loss. Fear became obsession. Obsession became control. Control became imprisonment. The guardian became the jailer. The protector became the monster. The memory ended. The town stood silent. The mayor lowered his head. Aiden saw genuine grief on his face. The first memory spoke again. You chose fear. The mayor whispered, I was trying to save them. The entity answered immediately, by trapping them. Silence. The words struck harder than any weapon. The mayor closed his eyes. For a moment he looked tired. Not ancient, not terrifying, just tired. Like a man carrying a burden far too long. Then he opened his eyes again, and the sadness vanished, replaced by determination. No. The mayor looked toward Aiden. I won't lose everything. The ground shook. Darkness exploded from his body. The dead sky cracked completely. Buildings collapsed throughout the town. The mayor rose into the air. His form expanded, growing larger, taller, more monstrous. The black coat dissolved into shadows. His limbs stretched impossibly. His face split apart. The thing that emerged barely resembled anything human. Aiden remembered the giant figure from the church windows. Now he understood. This was its true form. The mayor roared. The sound echoed across the dying town. The first memory surged upward. The collision shook the world. Light and darkness crashed together. Reality tore apart. The town began collapsing. Entire streets vanished. Buildings dissolved into dust. The sky fragmented into floating shards. Aiden's arm. We have to leave. Aiden stared at the battle overhead. The mayor fought like a storm. Dark tendrils lashed across the sky. The first memory answered with waves of blinding light. Each impact destroyed more of the town. The world was coming apart. Yet Aiden couldn't move. Something inside him felt unfinished, incomplete. Then he heard a voice, a familiar voice. His mother's voice. Aiden! He froze. The sound came from the shattered well. Aiden approached slowly. The boy shouted after him, Aiden! But he continued walking. The well still glowed. Countless memories swirled inside. Then he saw her. Not physically, a memory, yet so vivid it felt real. His mother smiled, exactly as he remembered. Warm, gentle, alive. Tears filled Aiden's eyes. Mom, the memory, looked at him. You know what this place is now. Aiden nodded slowly. His throat felt tight. The memory smiled sadly. Then you know what must happen. Aiden looked away, because deep down he already understood. The road existed because someone feared being forgotten. The town existed because someone feared loss. The entire nightmare was built upon refusing to let go. His mother stepped closer. Or perhaps the memory only felt closer. People aren't meant to stay forever. Aiden closed his eyes. The truth hurt, but it was still true. The memory touched his cheek, a sensation he somehow felt, despite knowing it wasn't real. You carry memories, she smiled. Memories don't need prisons. The image began fading. Aiden felt panic. No, her smile remained gentle. You don't lose people by remembering them. The memory disappeared. The well fell silent. Aiden stood alone, yet something inside him had changed. He finally understood. The road wasn't just a place. It was an idea, a wound, a refusal to accept endings. And because of that refusal, countless souls had become trapped. Aiden turned. The battle overhead continued. The mayor was losing. The first memory's light surrounded him, yet the town continued collapsing. Soon, nothing would remain. Aiden looked toward the center of the broken well. There, beneath the swirling light, something glowed. A single door. Small, simple, wooden. The same door he had first entered through in the house. The beginning, the source. Aiden understood immediately. The road could be ended. But someone had to choose. The boy approached, his face pale. What are you doing? Aiden smiled sadly. Finishing it. The boy's eyes widened. You can't. I can. The boy shook his head desperately. If you do this, the town disappears. Aiden nodded. I know. What about us? The question hung in the air. Aiden looked around, at the town, at the trapped souls, at the endless suffering. Then he answered softly. Maybe disappearing isn't the worst thing. The boy stared. Then tears filled his eyes. For the first time, he looked like an actual child, not an ancient soul, just a child. Slowly he nodded. Aiden walked toward the door. Above him, the mayor noticed. Their eyes met. For one final moment, the battle stopped. The mayor descended slowly, damaged, weak, shadows dripping from his body. He landed before Aiden. Neither spoke for several seconds. Then the mayor laughed quietly, not mockingly, sadly. You finally remembered. Aiden nodded. The mayor looked at the door, then toward the dying town. I never wanted this. I know. The mayor smiled faintly, a strange expression on a monster. That's the tragedy. The first memory hovered behind him, watching, waiting. The mayor stepped aside. No resistance, no attack, no violence, just acceptance. Aiden approached the door. His hand touched the handle. Immediately, memories flooded through him. Every version, every life, every journey, every previous attempt. Thousands of existences, thousands of endings, and all of them leading here, to this moment. The mayor spoke one final time. Will it hurt? Aiden looked back. The monster who had once been a guardian stood beneath the collapsing sky. Alone, tired, broken. Aiden answered honestly, I don't know. The mayor smiled, then closed his eyes. Aiden turned the handle. The door opened. Light poured outward. Not frightening light, not supernatural light, just warm sunlight. Real sunlight, the kind he had almost forgotten. The town began dissolving immediately. Buildings faded, roads vanished, the church disappeared, the cemetery crumbled. The trapped souls rose into the sky like drifting stars. One by one, thousands of them, free at last. The boy smiled, then slowly faded away. His final expression was peaceful. The first memory dissolved into light. The mayor remained standing until the very end. He looked toward Aiden, then nodded once, as though thanking him, and vanished. The town was gone. The road was gone. The house was gone. Everything disappeared. Only light remained. Aiden opened his eyes. He was sitting inside his rental car. The engine was off. Sunlight streamed through the windshield. Birds sang outside. Normal birds. Normal sounds. Normal life. Aiden looked around quickly. The strange road was gone. The forest was ordinary. His phone displayed the correct time. Signal bars were full. For several minutes he simply sat there, breathing, listening, existing. Then he noticed something on the passenger seat. A photograph. Aiden picked it up. The image showed an empty road stretching toward the horizon. Nothing else. No house, no town, no mayor, only a road. On the back were 4 handwritten words. Some things must end. Aiden stared at the message, then folded the photograph carefully. He placed it in his pocket, started the engine, and drove away. Behind him, the forest remained silent, peaceful, empty, as though the road that forgot the world had never existed at all.